Hey everyone, this is Necromancer 1040 here, and I've got another video for you guys, and I'm sure you guys know what this video is about. So I'm gonna talk about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Roll 5 ban list for March 2020. This has mainly been the biggest topic of discussion, particularly in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, being that this is the next big jump in terms of rulings for how we're gonna play Yu-Gi-Oh! From now on. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. First, I'm going to get to the newly banned cards, and I'm going to talk about a few of the reasons why I think those cards got banned. So, the first hit we see on the list actually is Blackwing Steam the Cloak. And so, people for a long time have thought that Blackwing Steam the Cloak is going to get banned, or at very least limited, but for the most part banned. Mainly because Blackwing Steam the Cloak generates a token whenever it leaves the field. That means it can be destroyed by battle, or it could be destroyed by card effect, or it could even be banished. So it generates a token nonetheless. So it's kind of like a failsafe for the card. So on top of that, it has an ability to basically summon itself back from the grave if you tribute a monster on your side of the field. The reason why I feel Steam the Cloak got banned is because of the second effect too. Because if you think about it, Steam the Cloak leaves the field, it leaves a token. Then you can tribute that token and summon Steam the Cloak back onto the field. So it kind of recycles itself in that way. And you can potentially use Steam the Cloak to synchro summon twice. If you summon Steam the Cloak the first time around, use him for synchro material. Once he leaves the field, he generates a token. Sacrifice that token, bring Steam the Cloak back onto the field, and then synchro summon again. Or you could even use it for XYZ material. So that's why Steam the Cloak also, well, I feel it's pretty sure the reason why it got banned to begin with. So yeah, and part of the reason why it got banned is because it's easy to use with needle fiber. So needle fiber, if you guys don't know, it's a link monster. So you can, if you, let's say you synchro summon first, and then you summon Steam the Cloak back on the field, you're gonna say, hey, maybe I can just use this as a generic link material, and you just use it for needle fiber. And so that's the way it could also be abused in that way. So Steam the Cloak was kind of an inevitable hit, even if it didn't get hit on this list, but it did. So with that, we move with to another hit, Luna Light Tiger. So we've seen Luna Lights get a huge, I guess, rush of support. So, well, not so much support, but they've gotten strong nonetheless. So if you don't know what Luna Light Tiger does, it has an ability to summon one Luna Light monster as a pendulum card. So if it's in the pendulum zone, you can summon a one Luna Light monster while it's in that zone. Also, when it's destroyed, it can also summon one Luna Light monster onto the field. So it's kind of, in my eyes, it's kind of straightforward to see why this got hit. So, I mean, even if it's just sitting on the field as a monster, you're pretty much waiting for Luna Light Tiger to get destroyed. Because as soon as that happens, you get another Luna Light monster. So it's kind of like Steam the Cloak, where it has that fail-safe strategy where you get something out of its destruction. And worst case scenario, if it's even in your pendulum zone, you get the same thing. So I feel that's why Luna Light Tiger got hit also. So this next hit is kind of a bum out for me, being that I did use it in quite a few of my decks, is Glow Up Bulb. Glow Up Bulb, if you guys don't know, it has the ability to special summon when it gets milled to the grave, or if it's sent from the top of the deck into the grave. So I kind of felt Glow Up Bulb was going to get hit in some degree. I didn't think it was going to get banned, but sure enough, it did get banned. And that's pretty evident because not a lot of decks really struggle to mill things into the grave. Most decks can do that fairly efficiently. So Glow Up Bulb was a pretty generic extender, if you will. So, and on top of that, Glow Up Bulb is basically a tuner. I mean, what's not to like about Glow Up Bulb? You mill it to the grave, special summons itself out. It's a tuner, so you can synchro use it for synchro summoning. That, and since it's a level 1 monster, you can use it to summon out Link Rebo, which you can use that to link climb into other monsters. So that's another use for Glow Up Bulb. In tandem, it also works very well with Steam the Cloak. If we lived in the format where Steam the Cloak and Glow Up Bulb were both in the same format, that's insane. You can pretty much go into Needle Fiber if once we get it. But you can go into Needle Fiber with just those 2 cards, basically, because they generate so much advantage. And I could not see how Steam the Cloak and Glow Up Bulb could be in the same format because of it. So that's why I think Glow Up Bulb had to be banned. It was a generic extender for every deck, basically. It was way too good to be left unchecked. So with a heavy heart, Glow Up Bulb had to go. And continuing the ban list, I pretty much knew this card was going to get hit. Yeah, I hate to say I called it, but Destrudo Lost Dragon Frisian. This card just seemed way too good in a synchro heavy format, especially when we're no longer restricted by the old rules of link summoning. So I feel the main reason why Destrudo got hit is because it's the same reason why Glow Up Bulb and Steam the Cloak got hit, but more so like this is prevalent in Destrudo, because Destrudo is basically a generic monster for any deck. All you need to do is target one monster on your side of the field that's level 6 or lower, and you get to summon Destrudo out from your hand or your grave. That's insane. And he's a tuner as well. So basically, once Destrudo hits the field, you get to special summon any level 7 synchro monster you want. So that's a instant access to basically Clearwing Synchro Dragon. And Clearwing Synchro Dragon is kind of a pain to deal with to begin with. But on top of that, it goes very well with TG Hyper Librarian. It just spawns this whole synchro summon heavy format, and we'll get to TG Hyper Librarian in a bit and see how that kind of correlates to it. But yeah, its ability to summon from the hand or the graveyard is way too strong. It can be used in any deck, and basically, it can be used for basically a cost for a card if you need to discard something. So Destrudo still gets its effect from the grave, and you've just got to use Destrudo in more than one way, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's it had to be banned. There was no way I could see Destrudo existing in a format that was synchro summon heavy like this. So the other hit is Spiral Master Plan. So this was kind of, I felt Master Plan was going to get banned, pretty sure. I highly doubted in the back of my mind that it was going to get limited to 1. This card is just way too good to be in the format, especially how spirals they're very strong and consistent. And this was basically their consistency card. Spiral. So if you don't know what Spiral Master Plan does, is it basically allowed you to search one Spiral mission and one Spiral Resort when destroyed. So, and also you can add one Spiral monster to your hand if it's destroyed as well. So its destruction effect is kind of like the others. It's kind of like a like a fail-safe. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, fail-safe. So it's kind of like that. Like the worst case scenario happens, it gets destroyed, and then you get something out of it. That's the kind of trend I've been seeing in this ban list. Konami's really been after those cards where you benefit off of its destruction. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. And basically, these 3 effects allow you basically 3 different searches off of just this one card. That's way too insane. That's way too much advantage for just one card to be activated in a turn. So I feel like Master Plan had to get hit for that reason. 3 searches in one card is way too broken, especially how consistent spirals are in general. I mean, you could say they're not after this, but that's was basically their crutch for their consistency. And basically, the ban of Spiral Master Plan, it prevents a lot of these spiral decks from seeing the resources that they need in order to create these summon loops, or these other kind of loops. I'm sure you've seen in the past, like the Cyframe Lord Omega loop. I'm sure that's pretty possible with spirals, but even link spams, they can just hit the board and basically summon themselves out like crazy, and you can get any link monster you want, and they just climb from there and you can summon out a huge link monster out. So Spiral Master Plan had to get banned. I couldn't see it existing. But with that, we get to the newly limited list. And this is kind of interesting because we saw some of the dangers get limited. And they're not the ones you see mostly, like Bigfoot. They're not the first kind of dangers that immediately came into the format. They're kind of the newer ones, actually, and that's Danger Jackalope and Danger Tsuchinoko. In my opinion, or in pretty much a lot of people's opinion, both those dangers were pretty much the best dangers. I guess you could argue Danger Nessie was also one of the best. But basically, you discard for cost, and then it's these two cards. They're basically generic draw power for a bunch of decks, and they basically allow you to summon the danger out onto the field. So basically, Jackalope basically allows you to summon another Jackalope from the deck, even if it is discarded. But and then it also allows you to extend your combos, and it also serves as deck thinning because these danger monsters can allow you to summon from the deck in some instances. Because Tsuchinoko, yeah, it serves as draw power, and then you can summon another Tsuchinoko from your hand, or special summon Tsuchinoko if your opponent chose that card to be discarded. So either way you win, even if your opponent chooses right or chooses wrong. Tsuchinoko is just way too good, and Jackalope is pretty much comparably as good. Pretty much. So, and basically, like I said before, you could use these two in any deck, so they had to get limited to one in my opinion. And yeah. So we move on to ABC Dragon Buster. So ABC Dragon Buster, it's easy to summon. That's probably the main reason why I think it got banned. So basically, you don't really use polymerization to summon out ABC Dragon Buster. You basically banish the fusion materials that you control or that are in the graveyard that are necessary to summon it out. And that's not even the most broken aspect of this card. The fact that you can tribute that card and you can summon 3 of your banished Machine Union ABC, just 3 banished Machine Union monsters off that effect. You basically have 3 link materials, so you can basically get out, bam, an instant link 3 monster. And I'm pretty sure that monster is going to generate advantage for you as well, and so you can carry on your combo. So you can either use those monsters for link material, or you can also use them for synchro material. So basically, ABC Dragon Buster got hit mainly because it creates like a spam heavy kind of field, and it just creates a bunch of, well, it allows very degenerate access to link summoning with just a very minimal cost. So that's why I think ABC Dragon Buster had to get hit. So, also on the newly limited list, we got TG Hyper Librarian and Trishula. So, to focus on TG Hyper Librarian, that's basically the reason why Konami went after all these synchro summon heavy cards, is because of TG Hyper Librarian. At least in my opinion, that's the case. Because they don't want people creating all these synchro summon heavy loops. Because the focus in that format would be get TG Hyper Librarian onto the board first, then you do all your crazy synchro summonings. And basically for every synchro summon you make, you get to draw 1 card off of TG Hyper Librarian. So I couldn't imagine a format where there were 3 TG Hyper Librarians or even 2 TG Hyper Librarians on the field. You're basically pot of greeting your way off of one synchro summon once you have TG Hyper Librarian out. So that would just generate way too much advantage in my opinion. And TG Hyper Librarian had to get limited to 1 for that reason. Similarly, Trishula, it doesn't really perpetuate spam loops, but it does help perpetuate other loops which take advantage away from your opponent. So Trishula basically banishes something from your opponent's grave or field, grave, hand, and field actually. So yeah, if you can summon multiple Trishulas, your opponent basically gets left with less than 3 cards in their hand. You take 3 cards away from your opponent's hand, 3 cards away from your opponent's field, and 3 cards away from your opponent's grave, and you can see just how awful of a format that would be if pretty much every person was doing that. It would just be unfair play all around, especially with something like TG Hyper Librarian generating so much advantage for yourself while you take away advantage from your opponent. I just don't see how that could have been healthy in any way, so I think Trishula had to get limited for that reason. And now more of the limited list is totally awesome, and this kind of well, pretty much made perfect sense to me. So if you don't know what Totally Awesome does, I mean, I'm not going to get into like everything he does, but the main reasons why he got banned, I feel, are the fact that he can basically allow you to summon a frog from the deck, and you can add a water monster from your graveyard if Totally Awesome gets sent to the grave in any way, basically. So again, Totally Awesome's one of those fail-safe cards where even if it does get destroyed, it basically gives you something. So like I said before, that's kind of like the trend in this ban list. Those are the cards I know Konami's mainly going after. And on top of that, Totally Awesome allows you to summon something. So it basically commits to 2 deadly no-nos for this upcoming format. Spam heavy, and basically allows you to search upon destruction. So that's why Totally Awesome, I feel, had to get limited to 1. And just like Totally Awesome, Instant Fusion, that was no surprise that it got limited to 1 as well. It's basically a very generic summon for level 5 or lower fusion monsters. So a lot of people have used the Elder Entity fusion cards to get their use off of Instant Fusion, and most of the time they use those for Link material or XYZ material or even Synchro material. They use it for all sorts of purposes, and Fusion material as well. Basically, Instant Fusion is the gateway for you to extend your combos and just get whatever type of extra deck monster you need at the moment. It makes it a lot easier. That is what I'm trying to say. And paying 1,000 life points for its cost for Instant Fusion is not a lot. It's negligible, so it had to go to 1 for that reason. On top of that, this kind of surprised me, and this kind of didn't as well. Mind Control. Mind Control got limited to 1, actually. So I see why they did it, because if your opponent dedicated a lot of resources to summoning something out onto the field, you've just taken away with Mind Control, and you basically got an extender and you took advantage away from your opponent. So that monster that you just gained from your opponent, you can use it for XYZ material potentially, but for the most part you're going to be using it for Link material, fusion material, or synchro material in that case. So it's way too generic. It fits in every deck, much like Instant Fusion. That's one thing I wanted to mention about Instant Fusion and Mind Control, is that they're both very generic cards for every deck. So you can also kind of see a trend here that very generic cards got hit as well, because that's what the Synchro strategy thrives off of, those very generic combo extenders. So combo decks are getting hated on for this ban list. And also Zoodiac Barrage got hit as well. It's limited yeah, to 1. So it can be searched. Obviously, Zodiacs, they don't have any problem being searched, which is probably the biggest reason why it got limited. So it basically enables a extra deck summon for Zodiac players, and it's banned because it's just another generic extender, which allows Link and XYZ summons. It's way too easy to use, and being that Zodiacs have never been a weak deck, they've always been a really good deck. I mean, minus a few formats when things haven't gone well in their favor, but Zodiacs have always been a very strong deck. It's safe to say that they're no pushover of a deck. So Zodiac Barrage pretty much needed to get hit, and yeah, so that's I guess Zodiac players are out of luck for that reason, and yeah, that's also brings me to the other limited list. Well, same ban list, but it's also worth mentioning, even though this isn't strictly limited to 1, Malicious got hit. So heroes are also taking a big hit just off of this one card, just off of Malicious going to 2, because most of the time you want to, well, obviously you want to get Malicious into the grave, and basically you just banish that Malicious to summon out another Malicious out from the deck, and that's basically your extender right there. So that's way too easy to go off of. So I feel like if there's any card that was limited to 2, it had to be Malicious, because if you manage to accidentally mill 2 of the copies of Malicious, well, then you can't really use this effect anymore. Whereas opposed in previous formats, you could just mill 2 copies of Malicious in and you weren't really worried. You could just banish 1 Malicious and summon out the other Malicious from your deck. So that's another reason why I feel like Konami was banning Malicious, is because, again, it's a very generic extender for basically any deck, and any deck that basically relies off the graveyard, which is most of the common meta format for nowadays. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for this ban list for Master Rule 5. This was a really crazy ban list to look over. This ban list was brutal, to be honest. But yeah, it's going to be interesting in the upcoming few months to see how this shapes up. Especially that a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments have gotten shut down for, I'm pretty sure, obvious reasons that you know. But so this is how the list shaped up to be, despite taking all into consideration. So with that, thank you so much for watching the video. If you would like to support content like this on my channel, you can do so at Patreon. You don't have to, it's just purely if you want to. And I appreciate any type of support that you give me, whether if it's just watching my videos or just simply enjoying them in general, and just, yeah, giving them a watch. I appreciate it in any way, shape, or form. Thank you so much for watching. Check the video description. There's a lot of information there, and I'll catch you in the next video. All right, take care.